when she's acting distant and cold? Here's proof she's thinking about you nonstop. Psychology tricks. Love doesn't always show up as closeness. Sometimes it shows up as fear wearing the mask of distance. Right now, you're probably telling yourself the same story most men do. She's colder than before. Her replies are shorter. Sometimes she doesn't reply at all. And when you're around her, she feels emotionally checked out. So your mind jumps to the most painful conclusion. She's not interested anymore. But what if that conclusion is wrong? What if her distance isn't rejection at all, but restraint? Here's the uncomfortable truth most men never hear. When a woman feels strong emotional attraction, she doesn't always move closer. Sometimes she pulls back hard, and the colder she appears on the surface, the louder her thoughts about you can be underneath. It sounds backwards, I know. But this misunderstanding is exactly why so many men walk away at the worst possible moment, right when she's internally wrestling with her feelings. There's a psychological pattern at play here, and once you see it, you'll never misread this situation again. Let's break it down. Men are wired to move toward what they want. Interest turns into pursuit. Desire turns into action. Women, especially emotionally intelligent or self-protective women, often do the opposite when feelings get intense. They slow down, they create space, they observe. Why? Because strong attraction makes them vulnerable, and vulnerability brings fear. Fear of caring too much, fear of losing emotional control, fear of being rejected, fear of appearing weak or too available. So her nervous system kicks in to protect her. Instead of leaning in, she subconsciously says, "Let me pull back and see how safe this feels." That's why she replies later. That's why she stops initiating. That's why she acts neutral or overly casual around you. Not because she doesn't care, but because she cares more than she's comfortable admitting. Here's the part that flips everything upside down. The more a woman thinks about you, the more pressure she feels internally. And pressure creates distance, not closeness. Her silence is often where the noise is. Her coldness is often a defense, not indifference. While you're assuming she's moved on, she may be replaying conversations, overanalyzing moments, and wondering what you think of her. And here's the invisible test most men fail without realizing it. She's watching how you respond to her withdrawal. Do you panic? Do you chase? Do you collapse emotionally and disappear? Or do you stay grounded, calm, and self-assured? That response tells her everything she needs to know about whether it's safe to let her guard down. This is the massive mistake men make. They interpret distance as a signal to quit, instead of a moment to hold their frame. And once you understand this pattern, confusion disappears. Anxiety fades. You stop reacting emotionally and start seeing clearly. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the subtle signals that reveal when her distance actually means you're constantly on her mind, even when she gives you almost nothing on the surface. If this is already reminding you of one specific woman and the way she's been acting lately, that's not an accident. You're about to see things very differently. Sign number 1, she keeps tabs on you when she thinks you won't notice. Sign number 1 is subtle, quiet, and incredibly revealing, and you must not ignore it. She keeps tabs on you when she believes you're not paying attention, and most men miss this because they expect interest to be loud, when in reality it's often carefully hidden, controlled, and almost shy. She doesn't stare outright. Don't expect that. Be smarter than that. Instead, you catch quick glances from across the room, the kind that vanish the moment your eyes meet hers, not because she's uninterested, but because she's been caught mid-thought, mid-feeling, mid-connection. That fast look away isn't rejection. That is reflex. That is her mind snapping shut a door she didn't plan on opening yet. Watch what happens when you're speaking to someone else. Her eyes drift back to you. Not constantly, just enough. Don't dismiss that. Be aware. Online, the same behavior simply wears a different outfit. She's among the first to view your stories, even when you post at strange hours. She likes posts you made weeks ago, not the fresh ones everyone else is tapping. She appears quietly, consistently, without announcement. She checks your profile when there's no obvious reason to do so. That is not random. That is pattern. Psychology tricks begin with pattern recognition, and this is one of the clearest examples. female psychology gives you when interest is real but unspoken. Don't tell yourself she's just bored. Don't convince yourself it means nothing. Sustained attention is never accidental. People guard their focus fiercely. Time and mental energy are precious, especially to adults who have learned what distraction costs them. When she's watching you quietly, she's not just observing actions. She's collecting details, filling in gaps, and building an internal version of you that exists even when you're not around. Be clear on this. She's imagining how you sound when you laugh, how you react under pressure, how you'd behave in moments that haven't happened yet. She replays conversations. She rewinds small interactions. She wonders how it would feel to be closer. That isn't casual curiosity. That is emotional rehearsal. And emotional rehearsal is one of the most overlooked psychology tricks tied to how to fall in love without realizing it's happening. Don't chase her. Don't confront her. Don't demand clarity. Be calm. Be steady. Let her attention do its work. Because when a woman invests her imagination, she's already crossed a line internally, even if she hasn't said a word. Female psychology teaches us that distance doesn't always mean detachment. Sometimes it means containment. She's managing feelings, not avoiding them. She's staying composed because emotions feel bigger when they're new, unexpected, or risky. That distance you feel isn't coldness. That is control. And control often appears right before connection deepens. You must understand this if you want to move wisely. Reacting too fast breaks the spell. Doubting yourself weakens your presence. Over-explaining kills mystery. Be grounded. Be observant. Let her curiosity expand instead of forcing it into the open. Psychology tricks don't work when they're aggressive. They work when they align with natural human behavior. And female psychology responds strongly to confidence that doesn't need validation. The more you remain centered, the more her attention intensifies, because now her mind has space to wander, to imagine, to attach meaning. This is exactly how to fall in love begins in the mind long before it reaches the heart. So don't overlook the quiet signs. Don't underestimate the power of being watched when you think you're alone. Be present, be consistent, be unbothered. Because when she's paying attention in secret, she's not drifting away. She's already closer than you think, guided by the same psychology tricks, female psychology patterns, and how to fall in love mechanisms that have shaped human connection for generations. Sign number 2, she remembers tiny throwaway details you mentioned ages ago. Sign number 2 goes deeper, quieter, and far more revealing. And once you notice it, you can't unsee it. She remembers tiny throwaway details you mentioned ages ago, the kind of things you barely recall saying yourself, and this is where coincidence quietly leaves the room. You casually said you had a big meeting coming up. Nothing dramatic, no emphasis, just words in passing. 3 weeks later, she looks at you and asks how it went, not as small talk, but with genuine focus. Don't brush that off. Be honest with yourself. Most people wouldn't remember that after 3 days, let alone 3 weeks. You once mentioned you're allergic to shellfish. You didn't make it a moment. You didn't repeat it. And yet, the next time you're out to dinner, she checks the sauce without being asked, without making a show of it, as if it's second nature. That is not performance. That is awareness. You told her once long ago that you used to play soccer as a kid, not your identity, not your passion today, just a memory. Later on, she brings up a random match she saw and asks if you still follow the sport. That's not trivia. That's connection. And you must understand what's really happening here if you want to move through this moment like a high-value man who knows how to attract women without forcing anything. Most people forget 80 to 90% of casual conversation within a day or two. That's not opinion. That's human nature. Our minds filter aggressively. We retain what matters and discard the rest. So when she remembers details you forgot you even shared, it means your presence has been quietly prioritized in her mind. Her brain didn't treat those moments as noise. It tagged them, stored them, replayed them. Be clear, that is emotional focus, not politeness. Don't confuse this with good manners. Be sharper than that. Manners fade. Memory rooted in emotion lasts. When someone is thinking about you often, their mind builds a file around you, and every detail, no matter how small, gets slipped into that file. Your schedule, your preferences, your past, your quirks, these things don't sit there by accident. They're revisited, they're connected, they're given meaning. And here's the part most men miss. When she remembers something that lived in her head longer than it lived in yours, it's because you've been showing up internally, not just physically. That's where attraction actually grows, quietly, privately, slowly. This is feminine processing at work, responding to masculine energy that feels steady and safe without needing to announce itself. Don't test her, don't tease her about it. Don't ask, "How do you remember that?" as if it's a magic trick. Be grounded, let it land. Because the man who remains calm in moments like this is the man who naturally attracts women by being present instead of reactive. That is what separates curiosity from attachment. That is what separates attention from intention. You must also understand what this says about you. Women don't store details about chaos. They store details about consistency, about men whose words and actions align, about men who move through the world with purpose. This is why masculine energy isn't loud or performative. It's composed, predictable in the best way, and emotionally regulated. When you embody that, her mind does the rest without you lifting a finger. Don't rush ahead. Don't demand labels. Be patient. Memory is one of the clearest signs of internal investment, and internal investment always comes before visible closeness. This is how attraction matures in adults who've lived, learned, and been disappointed before. It doesn't explode. It accumulates. Slowly. Thoughtfully. When she remembers your meeting, your allergy, your childhood sport, she's not just recalling facts. She's protecting an image she values. And that's something a high-value man recognizes without needing reassurance. Be consistent. Be respectful. Be centered. This is how to attract women without chasing them, by letting your masculine energy create space where attention naturally deepens. And when you notice these small memories surfacing again and again, understand this simple truth. You've already been on her mind far longer than you think. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to support the channel. Like the video. Share it with someone who needs clarity instead of confusion. Subscribe for more grounded insight and calm confidence. And most importantly, engage with this message so it stays with you. Comment to remember. I am a man worth remembering, and my presence leaves a lasting impression. Leave that affirmation in the comments now. Say it. Own it. Because when someone remembers the smallest details about you long after the moment has passed, it's proof that your energy matters, your words matter, and you are already making an impact, whether she says it out loud or not. Sign number 3. Her friends know who you are, and they act weird around you. When she suddenly feels distant and cold, don't rush to panic or chase explanations. One of the clearest proofs she's thinking about you nonstop shows up in a place most men overlook: her friends. This is not guesswork. This is pattern. This is psychology. This is old Stoic wisdom applied to real life. You walk into a room and her friends glance at her before they look at you. Not out of politeness, but coordination. A raised eyebrow. A knowing smile. A comment that slips out like, "So this is him," then disappears into fake casualness, or your name drops into conversation as if it's already been worn smooth from repetition. Hear this instruction clearly. This does not happen by accident. It happens because you've already been living in her mind long before you arrived. Women process emotion through conversation and reflection. If her friends recognize you, react to you, or act slightly out of character around you, it means you've been discussed, analyzed, replayed, and weighed more than once. She's shown them your texts. She's replayed moments word for word. She's asked for opinions she pretends she doesn't need. Her circle is now emotionally invested, and that tells you something critical about leverage and self-control in modern relationships. Distance does not always mean disinterest. Often, it means internal conflict. As Marcus Aurelius said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If you are in her friend's awareness, you are already coloring her inner world, whether she speaks to you or not. So here is the move: not reaction, restraint, not chasing, composure, not noise, presence. This is where an iron mind separates men who win from men who wonder. Modern life pressures people to appear unbothered and emotionally managed, yet feelings still need somewhere to go. When she pulls back while her friends lean in with curiosity, that contradiction matters. Silence can be strategic. Space can be self-protective. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Decide who you are before you decide what to do. Be the man grounded in old Stoic wisdom. Understand that Stoicism win is not control over others, but mastery over self." Your instruction is simple, not easy. Do not confront her about her friends. Do not fish for reassurance. Do not change your rhythm. Stay consistent. Stay measured. Stay forward moving in your own life. Nothing sharpens attraction like a man who does not abandon his mission when uncertainty appears. This is not a game. This is psychology aligned with discipline. When her friends see you remain steady, when they report back that you didn't flinch or pressure, it reinforces safety and credibility. Credibility is desire's foundation. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." Freedom here is freedom from emotional reaction, freedom from chasing clarity before it's offered. Repeat this until it locks in. Her friends knowing you is not a threat. It's confirmation. Their odd behavior is not a warning. It's evidence. Your job is not to decode every signal. Your job is to remain the man who created the signal. An iron mind, steady habits, calm speech, purpose beyond validation. This is Stoicism win in action. This is old Stoic wisdom for modern life. When you live it, attraction grows toward stability. Victory replaces anxiety. You don't chase resolution. You allow it. You master yourself first. That has always been the real win. Sign number 4. She reaches out of the blue, then vanishes again. Sign number 4 is the one that keeps good men awake at night because it feels random, emotional, and strangely personal all at once. And it goes like this. She reaches out of the blue, pulls you back into her orbit, then disappears again. And while that silence makes you question yourself, it's actually one of the clearest signals she's thinking about you nonstop. Picture it clearly. It's a quiet Tuesday afternoon. No context, no buildup. She sends a meme, or a link with the words, "This made me think of you," or a casual, almost innocent, "Hey, how's your week going?" You answer, "Be calm, be warm." The conversation flows easily, naturally, even playfully. There's laughter, there's familiarity. It feels good, grounded, real. Then it stops. Not slowly, not gently, just stops. 3 days pass, then 5, then a week, and that's when the mind turns against itself. Don't panic, don't overanalyze, but you do anyway. You wonder if you said too much. You wonder if you showed too much interest. You wonder if you broke some invisible rule. That confusion is exactly why this pattern works so deeply, and it's also why it's rooted in female psychology, not disinterest. Here's what's really happening beneath the surface. And you must understand this if you want clarity instead of chaos. She didn't message you by accident. That urge came from pressure building inside her. She missed you. The thought of you lingered longer than she expected. Something reminded her of you, and that feeling refused to stay quiet. So she reached out to relieve the tension. That is the approach. But the moment she hit send, a second force kicked in just as hard. Doubt, self-protection, fear of being seen as too available, fear of revealing too much too soon. Not because she doesn't care, but because she does. This is where psychology tricks meet emotional reality. Psychologists call it an approach avoidance conflict, but you don't need academic terms to feel its impact. She wants closeness, then pulls away to feel safe again. She wants connection, then retreats to regain balance. This back and forth isn't manipulation. It's tension management inside her own mind. Be clear about that. When she goes quiet again, she's not forgetting you. She's thinking, recalibrating, replaying the interaction in her head, asking herself what it meant, what you felt, what it says about her. And here's the part most men miss entirely. The timing is never random. She doesn't resurface because she's bored. She resurfaces when the silence stretches just long enough that she worries you might be moving on. That is not coincidence. That is emotional awareness. If she weren't thinking about you, she wouldn't track time at all. She wouldn't notice the gap. She wouldn't feel the need to reinsert herself into your world. That's how to fall in love often begins, quietly, unintentionally, through patterns that feel confusing on the surface but make perfect sense underneath. Don't chase her during the silence. Don't punish her for it either. Be steady. Be grounded. Let her feel that your presence doesn't evaporate just because she pulled back. That emotional consistency is powerful. It speaks louder than pressure ever could. And understand this deeply. Men who recognize these psychology tricks don't react emotionally. They respond strategically. They don't flood the silence with insecurity. They don't demand explanations. They allow the cycle to reveal its truth. The more often this pattern repeats, the clearer the message becomes. She reaches out because she can't help it. She disappears because the feeling scares her. She returns because the connection still matters. That is female psychology in motion. That is attraction wrestling with self-control. That is how to fall in love unfolding in real time, not through grand gestures, but through quiet tension, missed signals, and perfectly timed messages that say far more than words ever could. If this hit home, don't just nod and scroll. Claim the insight. Drop this comment right now. I don't chase confusion. I stay steady and let clarity come to me. Like the video, subscribe for more sharp psychology tricks, and remember this truth every day. Distance isn't rejection, it's tension. And when you understand female psychology, you stop reacting and start leading. Sign number 5. She acts noticeably different around you than she does with most people. Sign number 5 is subtle, quiet, and incredibly revealing if you know how to read it, because she acts noticeably different around you than she does with most people, and not in the obvious movie scene way most men expect. Not always flirty different. Sometimes it's the opposite. She may grow quieter when you're near. Her laugh might sound a little tighter, a little more careful. You might notice her hands moving without purpose, touching her necklace, smoothing her sleeves, checking her phone, then putting it down as if she forgot why she picked it up in the first place. Her voice can shift too, becoming softer or slightly higher, as if her body is adjusting before her mind catches up. Don't dismiss this. Don't mislabel it. These are not signs of indifference. Indifference is calm. Indifference is loose shoulders and easy breathing. Indifference is being neutral, unbothered, fully at ease. What you're seeing instead is activation. When someone makes your nervous system light up, whether from excitement or emotional tension, the body responds first. That is biology. That is human nature. Be clear about this. If she appears more tense, more aware of herself, more on around you than with others, it's because you matter to her emotionally. People do not build emotional armor around people who feel insignificant. They don't adjust their posture, their voice, or their energy for someone who means nothing. That extra awareness is not random. It's investment. And this is where many men get it wrong. They assume comfort equals attraction and tension equals distance. That is backwards. Comfort comes later. Tension appears at the beginning, right when feelings are forming but not yet settled. You must understand this distinction if you want to attract women without chasing signals that were never meant to be chased. A high-value man doesn't panic when energy shifts. He observes, he stays grounded. Stays. He understands that masculine energy isn't loud or performative. It's steady, calm, and unreactive. That steadiness gives her nervous system something to lean against. Don't interrogate her behavior. Don't call it out. Don't ask, why are you acting weird? Be composed. Be present. Let the moment breathe. When she senses that you're not rattled by her tension, it eases naturally. That's how connection deepens without pressure. This difference in how she acts around you is often unconscious. She may not even realize she's doing it. Her body is responding to emotional relevance before her mind has organized the feeling into words. That's why her behavior might seem inconsistent. One moment she's composed, the next she's fidgeting. One moment she's chatty, the next she's quiet. That contrast doesn't mean uncertainty about you. It means certainty she hasn't fully processed yet. And here's an important truth. The more you embody masculine energy, the more pronounced this difference can become at first. Calm presence creates contrast. Emotional steadiness highlights emotional movement. When you don't overcompensate, when you don't seek validation, when you don't rush to fill silence, her awareness of you sharpens. That is how a high-value man naturally stands out. He doesn't demand attention, he creates gravity, and gravity pulls even when nothing is said. Don't confuse nervous energy with disinterest. Don't mistake silence for detachment. Be patient, be observant. Watch how she behaves with others, then notice the small changes when she's with you. That comparison tells the real story. When she's relaxed elsewhere but subtly alert around you, that's emotional significance speaking quietly. This is also why trying too hard at this stage backfires. Over-explaining, over-pursuing, over-performing. Don't do it. You must allow space for her feelings to organize themselves. Attraction grows in environments that feel safe, not forced. And safety doesn't mean boredom, it means emotional steadiness. That's what helps attract women who are drawn to depth, not chaos. Remember this: indifference doesn't notice, interest does. Interest watches itself. Interest adjusts. Interest feels slightly exposed. That's what you're seeing when she acts different around you. Not confusion, not rejection, emotional relevance. So stay grounded, stay consistent, let your actions speak quietly. A high-value man doesn't rush the process. He trusts it. He knows that masculine energy isn't about control, it's about presence. And presence, done right, gives her the space to feel what she's already starting to feel without needing to run from it. Sign number 6, she tests your reactions. Sign number 6 is the one most men misunderstand, and misunderstanding it is where many good connections quietly die. She tests your reactions. When a woman suddenly feels distant, cool, or unpredictable, most men label it as mixed signals and feel irritated, confused, or pressured to fix something that isn't broken. That reaction alone tells the whole story. These tests are rarely calculated or intentional. They come from instinct, not strategy. She may casually mention another man, not to provoke jealousy, but to notice whether your inner balance shifts. She may cancel plans at the last minute, not to disrespect your time, but to see whether you respond with calm self-respect or emotional turbulence. She may pull back for a few days, not because she's losing interest, but because she's observing whether you chase, spiral, or remain grounded. These moments are silent evaluations, unconscious security checks that answer questions she may not even realize she's asking. Are you steady? Are you emotionally reliable? Can you handle uncertainty without turning it into drama? Will you remain yourself even when I'm not fully available? When a woman begins testing, it's often proof she's thinking about you more seriously than before, because only someone considering emotional investment needs reassurance about stability. As Viktor Frankl famously said, between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. That space is everything here. Your response reveals your inner structure. A man with an iron mind does not react emotionally to temporary distance. He understands human nature and trusts his own frame. This is Old Stoic wisdom in action. The Stoics taught that we do not control events, only our reactions to them. And Stoicism win is not about suppression but mastery. When you stay calm, respectful, and consistent, you communicate strength without a word. When you continue living your life, honoring your priorities, and responding without urgency or resentment, you pass the test effortlessly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Modern life amplifies this dynamic. Social media, constant communication, and endless options increase uncertainty and emotional noise. Many men feel the urge to over-communicate, over-explain, or demand reassurance. That instinct works against you. Calm confidence works for you. Silence, when appropriate, is not absence. It is presence with control. She's watching whether you need constant validation or whether your confidence stands on its own. She's observing if your mood depends on her behavior or if your life remains solid regardless. This is not about winning games. It's about demonstrating emotional leadership. A man with an iron mind understands that attraction grows in safety, not pressure. He doesn't rush clarity. He doesn't demand certainty. He allows space without fear. He responds, not reacts. Short, steady, composed. This is how Stoicism looks in real relationships. The goal is not to prove anything to her, but to remain aligned with yourself. When you do that, her questions answer themselves. As Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. If you want respect, act with self-respect. If you want trust, show consistency. If you want connection, lead with emotional stability. Tests dissolve when there is nothing to test. This is old Stoic wisdom applied to modern dating. Mastery over impulse, clarity over chaos, calm over confusion. When she senses that you are unshaken by small disruptions, that you don't chase reassurance, that your confidence is quiet and your presence grounded, the distance often closes on its own. Victory here isn't dramatic. It's silent. It's the quiet power of a man who knows who he is, where he's going, and refuses to abandon himself for approval. That is how you master life. Sign number 7. You're starting to feel the uncertainty, and that's actually part of the process. Sign number 7 is the one most men misunderstand, and yet it's the one that quietly decides everything. You start to feel uncertainty, and instead of being a warning sign, it's actually proof that something meaningful is unfolding. Right now, if you feel unsure where you stand, don't panic. Don't label it as failure. Be honest with yourself and recognize this for what it is. That is information. Real connection rarely arrives wrapped in clarity and comfort. It shows up as tension, pauses, and unanswered questions. You must understand this if you want depth instead of surface-level attraction. The man who can sit inside that uncertainty without rushing to fix it, without chasing to soothe his ego, and without pulling away to protect his pride, is the man who quietly signals emotional strength. And that strength is felt immediately. Women who experience deep attraction but guard themselves carefully are not playing games. They are observing. They are watching how you respond when you don't have control, when certainty isn't handed to you, when silence stretches longer than you'd like. This is where female psychology becomes incredibly important to understand. She isn't measuring how clever your messages are or how intense your pursuit feels. She's measuring your nervous system. She's asking without words, can this man stay grounded when things are unclear? Don't chase too hard. That creates pressure, and pressure makes her step back because it feels unsafe to her emotional boundaries. Don't disappear too quickly either. That confirms her quiet fear that your interest was shallow or conditional. Be present. Be calm. Be consistent without being demanding. That middle path is not passive, it's powerful. It tells her, I'm here because I choose to be, not because I need reassurance. This is one of those psychology tricks that doesn't look like a trick at all, because it's rooted in self-control, not manipulation. When you remain steady, you create space for her curiosity to grow. Space is where attraction breathes. Space is where feelings have room to rise on their own without being forced. If you've ever wondered how to fall in love in a way that lasts, this is it. Love deepens when both people feel free, not cornered. And here's the subtle part most men miss. Confusion on your side often mirrors internal conflict on hers. She may be feeling drawn to you while simultaneously protecting herself, and that push-pull creates distance that looks cold from the outside. Don't react emotionally to that distance. Be composed. That is not indifference. That is leadership of self. When you hold your ground calmly, you show that you respect her pace without abandoning your own worth. That balance is rare, and rarity creates value. This is why understanding female psychology matters far more than memorizing lines or tactics. Attraction is less about what you say and more about how you hold yourself when things are uncertain. Use psychology tricks wisely, not to control her behavior, but to master your own reactions. Stay engaged without hovering. Stay interested without demanding outcomes. Let her come toward you because she wants to, not because she feels pushed. This approach naturally teaches you how to fall in love without losing yourself in the process. And remember this, clarity often comes after patience, not before it. If you can stay relaxed in the unknown, if you can show through your actions that you don't need to force an answer today, you become the man she feels safe opening up to tomorrow. That's not luck. That's understanding human connection. That's female psychology in action. And when you apply these psychology tricks with calm confidence, you don't just increase attraction. You build trust, depth, and the kind of bond that doesn't fade when things get uncomfortable. Sign number 8. She finds subtle ways to be in your orbit without directly engaging. When she suddenly feels distant and cold, yet you notice her appearing in your orbit in quiet, almost accidental ways, understand this clearly and without confusion. This is not randomness. This is intention wrapped in self-protection. Sign number 8 reveals a powerful psychological truth that seasoned men recognize immediately. She places herself near you without demanding interaction because the mind seeks closeness long before the heart dares to speak. She shows up where you'll be. She aligns with people connected to you. She stands just close enough to be noticed but far enough to retreat. This behavior signals that you occupy her thoughts more than her silence suggests. As Carl Jung once said, where your fear is, there is your task. Proximity without vulnerability is the mind's compromise between desire and caution. In modern life, where pride, past disappointments, and endless options harden emotional openness, this pattern is increasingly common, especially among emotionally intelligent women who have learned to guard their feelings. The mistake most men make is misreading this silence as indifference. They react with pressure, impatience, or emotional overexposure. The correct response is restraint, clarity, and composure. This is where Old Stoic wisdom becomes your edge. Stoicism teaches that power is quiet, attraction is calm, confidence does not chase, it allows. When you hold steady, when you don't rush to fill the silence, when you don't demand reassurance, you create psychological safety and intrigue at the same time. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. This applies directly here. Your job is not to decode every move, but to maintain an iron mind, steady and unshaken, letting her feel your presence without pressure. She wants to feel you without risking rejection. Paradoxically, the more relaxed and grounded you are, the more her curiosity intensifies. Consistency signals strength. Emotional stability feels rare in a world of noise. This is not a game. It's human nature. Men who understand Stoicism win by refusing to react emotionally while remaining warm, attentive, and self-directed. Show up fully in your life, not in her uncertainty. Success, purpose, and discipline are the strongest signals you can send. When she sees you moving forward, unbothered, focused, centered, she feels drawn without being chased. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be and then do what you have to do." That instruction is timeless. Be the man who does not need validation, the man who values calm over control, the man who lets actions speak. Proximity seeking without engagement is her way of staying connected to your energy, your stability, your presence. The moment you understand this, you stop doubting and start leading yourself again. In today's world of mixed signals and digital distance, mastery belongs to the man who stays grounded, the man who doesn't overinterpret, the man who trusts patterns over words, the man who keeps his life moving with purpose. This is iron mind in action. This is Old Stoic wisdom applied to modern relationships. This is how Stoicism win becomes visible in daily life. When you remain centered, patient, and decisive, you naturally create the conditions for clarity. Remember this, attraction grows in space, respect grows in consistency, confidence grows when you stop reacting and start choosing. Whether she steps closer or not, you walk forward regardless. Victory in life is not about controlling outcomes. It's about mastering yourself, standing firm, and letting the right connections reveal themselves in time. Hold your frame, keep your standards, trust your calm, repeat it daily. Iron mind. Old Stoic wisdom. Stoicism win. Move like a man who already knows his worth. Hey, my friend, before we wrap up, let me share something with you, honestly and straight from the heart. Stop believing the surface story her behavior is showing you. People who are emotionally involved often act in confusing, contradictory ways. Sometimes, the colder and more distant she seems, the more she's actually thinking and feeling inside. My sincere advice to you is this: stay calm, observe carefully, and hold your value. When you don't react impulsively, don't chase, and don't come off as needy, you give her the space to face her real emotions. And that's usually when real movement begins. If this video helped you see someone's behavior in a completely new way, drop the word seeing in the comments so I know you're picking up what I'm putting down. And if you want the next step, how to turn this awareness into real progress without looking needy, hit subscribe. We're going deeper in the next one. See you there.